Hi, I'm Toro, and this is the World in Series. Each episode in this series is a quiet journey through time, softly exploring the people, places, and events that shaped a single year in our shared history. So get comfortable, let your thoughts wander, and let's drift back to the world as it was. The world in 1916. Welcome, dear dreamer. Tonight, let us travel back through the soft corridors of time to the year 1916. As you settle into rest, allow your breath to grow steady and your mind to drift like a paper boat across a calm river. The world of 1916 waits like a gentle tapestry, woven with threads of history, culture, and quiet moments of everyday life. This was a year of contrasts, of profound changes unfolding slowly, and of ordinary days continuing with familiar rhythms. Though great struggles stretched across the continents, there were also gardens blooming, new ideas taking shape, and lullabies sung in warm kitchens at dusk. So, close your eyes if you wish and let us wander together into the world as it was more than a century ago. World events. The year 1916 rested deep within the long shadows of the First World War. Yet even amidst the tension, life did not cease. Seasons continued their cycles, and nations sought moments of pause and direction. In Europe, the fields were marked by battles such as Verdun and the Somme, names that echo quietly through history. Though these conflicts were immense, in our telling tonight, imagine them not as thunder and smoke, but as distant clouds on the horizon, heavy yet far away, while villages nearby still lit their lamps, and children still traced shapes on frosted windows. Across the Atlantic, the United States had not yet joined the fighting. Instead, President Woodrow Wilson spoke softly of neutrality, seeking to keep his nation at peace for a while longer. His calm words were carried across radios and newspapers, encouraging patience and balance in uncertain times. Far to the south, in Latin America, quiet shifts unfolded. In Mexico, the echo of revolution still lingered, shaping the country's future. In Argentina, fields of wheat and cattle gave steady rhythms to the land, feeding not only the nation but ships that carried food abroad. In Asia, great empires continued their slow dance of change. In China, a fragile republic tried to steady itself, while Japan looked outward, quietly expanding its reach and learning from the wider world. Across India, daily life went on with markets alive in color and sound, even as thoughts of independence began to ripple gently through the land. Meanwhile, in Africa, communities moved through the year in the timeless patterns of planting and harvest, song and story. Though colonial powers marked maps with borders, the deeper rhythms of life, the sweep of rivers, the call of birds, the laughter of children, continued to weave the true music of the continent. Thus, 1916 was a year where global events touched many corners, but the pulse of ordinary existence beat softly beneath them all. Daily life around the world. To wander through 1916 is to step into kitchens scented with wood smoke and bread, and into streets alive with the sound of horses' hooves on cobblestones. In London, lamps glowed faintly against the night fog. Families gathered around fireplaces, sipping tea and reading stories aloud. Men and women worked long hours, yet in the quiet of evening, music boxes played soft melodies. Clothing was modest and layered, heavy coats in winter, long skirts brushing against worn shoes. In Paris, cafes remained open, their small tables crowded with coffee cups and notebooks. Though war weighed heavily, inside these spaces there was still laughter, still the clinking of spoons against porcelain, still the warmth of conversation. In New York, skyscrapers continued their steady climb, their steel bones rising into the sky. Streetcars rattled past, and in neighborhoods like Harlem, music drifted through the windows, early notes of jazz, playful and alive. Children played stickball in alleys, and mothers leaned out of windows to call them in for supper. Across the Mediterranean, in Cairo or Damascus, markets were alive with color. Baskets of figs and dates, heaps of spices fragrant with cardamom and saffron, woven rugs displayed in the sun. Camels and donkeys shared the roads with carriages, and the call to prayer marked the hours with a sound that carried softly over rooftops. In the villages of India, women drew water from wells while children ran barefoot in the dust. The smell of curry and flatbread filled the air, while merchants weighed grain with brass scales. In the countryside, farmers tended rice paddies and wheat fields, their lives tied to the rhythm of the monsoon. And in the quiet corners of Scandinavia, evenings stretched long, filled with candlelight and knitting by the hearth. The cold wind brushed against wooden houses, but inside, warm stews simmered and lullabies were sung in gentle voices. Everywhere, people dressed simply, lived closely, and dreamed quietly, unaware of just how swiftly the decades to come would change the very texture of their lives. Science, inventions, and technology. The year 1916 was also a moment of quiet wonder in science and invention, as humanity stretched its imagination toward the future. In Germany, a physicist named Albert Einstein was refining the graceful mathematics of relativity. Though few understood the complexity of his ideas, they spoke softly of time bending like a river and of space curving like a gentle horizon. In the United States, Henry Ford's assembly line continued to hum steadily. The Model T carried families across dusty country roads, its engine a low, rhythmic murmur. Automobiles were still new to many, and children pointed with wide eyes when one passed through their village. In medicine, researchers searched for better treatments, and vaccines were slowly spreading their protection across the world. Hospitals filled with white-coated doctors and nurses, their work a steady promise of healing. Electricity reached further into homes, turning evenings brighter. The flick of a switch became a small miracle, replacing oil lamps and candles with steady light. Telegraphs carried words across continents, and telephones were becoming more common, connecting voices once separated by distance. Even in the sky, new technology took wing. Airplanes, though still fragile, were testing the boundaries of possibility. The thought of flying across oceans, once the dream of poets, was now slowly becoming real. Thus, 1916 held within it a quiet sense of progress, a gentle unfolding of ideas that would blossom more fully in the years ahead. Culture and the arts. Amidst the tides of change, art and culture continued to bloom. In literature, poets such as W.B. Yeats wrote verses of longing and myth, weaving Ireland's folklore into words that carried softly across time. In America, Robert Frost painted images of snowy woods and quiet paths, poems that felt like whispers of nature itself. In music, concert halls filled with the graceful swell of orchestras. Composers such as Claude Debussy and Richard Strauss continued to enchant listeners with shimmering notes, while ragtime and early jazz brought playful rhythms to dance halls. In the visual arts, modernism spread gently across Europe. Painters experimented with new colors and shapes, soft pastels, and bold lines capturing emotions in ways unseen before. In Russia, artists like Marc Chagall painted dreamlike scenes of floating lovers and small village life, tender and surreal. Cinema, though still young, was growing quickly. Silent films flickered in darkened theaters, their black and white images accompanied by the lilting music of a piano. Audiences laughed, gasped, and sighed together, carried by stories told without words. In each art form, humanity found ways to express not only the weight of its moment, but also the timeless beauty of imagination. Media and headlines. In 1916, the world's news traveled most often through printed pages. Newspapers rustled in the morning air as they were unfolded, their ink smudging fingertips. Headlines spoke of battles abroad, elections, and scientific discoveries. In Britain, the Times carried reports from the front, while in America, the New York Times and Chicago Tribune told stories of both domestic life and distant lands. In Paris, Le Figaro published thoughtful essays, while smaller local papers shared news of markets, marriages, and daily happenings. Magazines offered softer pleasures. National Geographic displayed photographs of faraway places, their images inviting readers to dream. Ladies' Home Journal filled its pages with recipes, advice, and stories of gentle domesticity. Prices were simple by modern standards. A loaf of bread in the United States might cost just a few cents, while a new pair of shoes could be bought for a few dollars. Coins clinked softly in purses, and paper money carried the scent of fresh ink and folded pockets. Thus, the media of 1916 was a world of print, of turning pages, and of voices carried by type rather than screen. People born and died. Every year brings with it arrivals and farewells. In 1916, among those born was a boy named Roald Dahl, who would grow to write whimsical tales filled with giants, chocolates, and clever children. In America, a young child named Beverly Cleary entered the world, destined to write beloved stories of everyday childhood. The year also welcomed Olivia de Havilland, who would one day shine on the silver screen, her presence graceful and enduring. And as some arrived, others departed. The Irish revolutionary Roger Casement was executed in London, a life entwined with the struggle for independence. In America, Hetty Green, once called the Witch of Wall Street for her shrewd finances, passed away, leaving behind stories of both wealth and eccentricity. Each birth and each passing was a quiet turning of history's page, contributing to the story of humanity's long unfolding. As 1916 drew to its close, the world seemed caught between deep shadows and gentle light. In the Northern Hemisphere, snow fell softly across rooftops, muffling the sounds of the streets. Families gathered indoors, lighting candles or small electric bulbs, and finding comfort in simple rituals: a warm drink, a familiar song, a child drifting into sleep. Though the war in Europe still weighed heavily, many people looked toward the horizon with quiet hope. Letters continued to pass between loved ones, carrying words of comfort and longing. In towns and villages, the turn of the year was marked not by grand spectacle, but by shared meals, the ringing of bells, and the timeless sense of moving forward. Around the world, farmers prepared fields for planting, inventors sketched designs for future machines, and children dreamed of lives they had not yet imagined. The year's passage was gentle in its own way, like the slow shifting of tides, carrying the world from one moment into the next. As midnight arrived, people whispered their wishes into the new year, not knowing what 1917 would bring. Yet there was always the same simple truth, that life, with all its fragility and strength, would continue, and that hope would remain a quiet, steady flame. And so, dear listener, our journey through 1916 comes to an end. May the images of this year linger gently in your mind, like soft lanterns glowing in the night. If you enjoyed this dreamlike voyage, I invite you to like, to subscribe, and to return again as we continue to wander together through the years of history. For now, close your eyes, rest deeply, and let the world of long ago carry you into peaceful sleep. Good night.